Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Komet. My co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Pretty good. Good weekend. Bit of a failed attempt to get to Lilac Festival today, but it sounds like you made it out there for a little bit.
Yeah, you and I were there at different times and experienced different weather patterns, I think. We were there for like the last hour of it and didn't really start raining until the very end. So we stayed pretty dry, but you said you got wet pretty quickly today.
Yeah, we were there around 12 and it was, we didn't stay very long. So what are you going to do? I guess had a pretty good day yesterday. Nice weather for the Cavs match that we were at.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about it. As usual, this is our weekend recap episode. So we're definitely going to, I think, focus on that Cavalry versus Halifax Wanderers game. But we also have a few other things to talk about, including another Cavalry game that is coming up in just a few days here.
Yeah, midweek match. I think several matches. There's at least one other match on Wednesday, and they're trying to sneak in one more game before the World Cup break, because I believe they are taking about a 2.5 week break, I think, for World Cup.
Yeah, I understand, like 3 weekends or something. So pretty big CPL hiatus as those games get going, both locally and in the US and Mexico. But one more opportunity to watch Cavalry before you can switch your allegiances and focus on Canada. But a great game from them yesterday. So why don't we kick things off with our Cavalry recap, and then we can also talk later about the Alberta Premier League.
This is Marco Carducci, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So on Saturday evening, Halifax Wanderers came to town and they faced Cavalry at Spruce Meadows, and a rather tidy victory in 3 points for the home side.
Yeah, 2-0 win. And Jason, I didn't tell anyone this ahead of time, but this was actually my prediction. So for once, I feel like I know what I'm talking about, because before this one, I was predicting a 2-0 win for the Cavs. But as we talked about, I think in our last episode, a major storyline was the return of former Cavalry captain Marco Carducci, who now keeps goal for Halifax Wanderers. This was his first trip back to Spruce Meadows, and he did get a local hero's reception. But of course, once the whistle blew and the game was going, the fans definitely were cheering against him. And yeah, Cavalry, came out strong. Definitely employed a really good high press whenever Halifax had the ball, and were pretty quick on attack when they gained possession. So unsurprising result, but it did take a while for things to get going. I think Halifax defended pretty well in the first half.
In the first half, Cavalry was having trouble breaking through, but Halifax had nothing offensively in that second half, like nothing at all. And it just seemed to build up for Cavalry, just the pushing. And yeah, I think it was the 68th minute, and when Gauthier scored the first goal.
Yeah, and a great strike from him. It was a corner kick on the left side, and I think it got partially cleared, and Gauthier was waiting just at the top of the box, took a touch to settle it, and then with his weaker right foot blasted it into the top corner and actually left Marco flat-footed. He just watched it zoom by his ear to put Cavalry up 1-0. Great goal from Natigny. I think that's his second of the season. And then just over 10 minutes later, Dan Klomp with yet another goal with his feet, combining with Adam Perlman in the 79th minute. But as I'm sure we will talk about, Klomp didn't deserve all the credit on this goal.
Yeah, Adam Perlman looked like Messi out there, dipsy doodling and going through players. I'm not really sure how many players he went through, maybe 3 or 4. It's crazy.
3.
And and it was well done.
Yeah, he really did well on the first 2 defenders to slip by them. And then the third defender, I'm not sure it was, but really whiffed on his tackle and honestly should have cleared it, but just made a meal of it. But yeah, Perlman, great layoff to see Klomp open around the penalty spot. And Klomp just kind of side-footed it slowly into the bottom left corner to double Cavalry's lead. But as you saw, Klomp immediately pointed to Perlman to show recognition that he is the one who made the goal happen.
For sure. I don't know about you, but I after that second goal, it really felt like the game was over. Like it just felt like, there was 10 more minutes to go or whatever, but it just felt like there was no, you know how sometimes people say, 2-0 is the scariest score in football or whatever. I don't know. I just felt like there was no way in the world that Halifax had a way back.
No, as you mentioned, I mean, they created nothing in that second half. And actually, throughout the game, they only rendered 3 shots, one of which was on target. So very quiet evening for Nate Ingham in Cavalry's goal. And Cavalry, on the other hand, generated 22 shots, 5 of which were on target. So it could have been a much higher scoring game, but I actually do think Marco Carducci played pretty well in his return to Spruce Meadows. He had a couple of important saves, including one on, I want to say, Sergio Camargo, because I remember thinking like that would be the storyline if Sergio scores on Marco. But overall, I mean, a pretty happy evening for Cavalry and their fans. And I think that really came across in the press conference afterwards, Jason.
Yeah, to no one's surprise, Marco Carducci was the Halifax player representative for the press conference. And he had a lot of nice things to say about his return, talked about what it was like to be back, the foot soldiers, that sort of thing. And we actually have audio of that. So maybe we should run that now.
You kind of covered it, right? We knew it was going to be a challenge. Obviously, someone who had played in this club for a very long time. I know the quality, we've seen the quality of this team. So we knew we'd have to live, and stay in the game as long as possible. I think you saw our legs when, experiencing the altitude in a different way. I think it was a challenge for us, but no, just ourselves to look at. And, because I think we managed to do quite well until, obviously over and over again, if you give high quality players high quality chances, like you're totally go take these guys, I know well, they'll hurt you. And that was the case today. I think we managed the game well up until that latter quarter, I'd say. And it's obviously disappointing to lose, but nice to have that.
How much did your new teammates ask you about their opponents today? And how much wisdom did you have to our
Well, like every club, obviously we have the staff that are rolling in and pouring over the video, and you see all of that. But I think as someone who knows these guys, a lot of them at least, as teammates, firsthand, it's the little details. So yeah, I was just trying to give everybody a slight edge, right, to be able to manage, again, guys that are dangerous, right, and big friends. So it was kind of fun and weird to look at Cavs and say, hey, I know a few things, obviously from my time here, but again, it's just like any team, he prepares best he can.
Talking about some Calgary Herald, enough technical stuff. Let's talk emotion. What was that like for you being on the other side here, and what was it like being in with the foot soldiers behind you?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I would say it was a wonderful experience. Honestly, I've, arrived in here. It's the first time I've been back in Calgary since I moved. And, obviously I've said this many times, Calgary's my home. So it felt good to be back home and, to see friends, family and supporters and everybody that's been around the squad and supported me along the way was a special experience. And again, to play on this field and, it's a unique experience and a big privilege, right, for all those years and be able to come back and do it again. With a lot of fun, a lot of emotion for sure. And, ultimately my job was do the best I could for my team. And we came up a bit short, which is obviously frustrating. It's a loss and, we knew it was going to be a big challenge, but of course it had a little extra element for me. And like I said, I enjoyed being back there.
I know there's love from the foot soldiers. I saw that after the game, I think a little bit during the game throughout the team. What about any vitriol coming from?
It's all fair. It's all fair. No, I have nothing but respect for the supporters here, foot soldiers, everybody else, every single person in the crowd that I got quite a warm welcome, I think, early on during the game. Of course, I expected a little bit of mind games because of course, and I would have expected no less. So that was fun. And obviously a bit different, but it felt, again, really nice to see a lot of familiar faces and you get a relatively warm reception. So I appreciate that.
I personally haven't had a chance to ask you about this, but why the change? Why go to Halifax?
I think I probably said this already. I look back on my time here at Cavalry and I'm really proud of those 7 years and the work that I put in, and then obviously the club put in together. So very, very, very much a part of that. But football is a short career, and I think I was at a point where I needed something fresh and a change. And I didn't know what that was going to be, and there's no guarantees in football either. So I don't think I was too shy as well. And I was saying that I obviously looked at opportunities across the whole. And the Halifax opportunities was a big one that I was very excited for when it came out. But I knew I needed a challenge, and I knew I needed to see something fresh. And for me, that's not just on the football side, it's also a personal thing. This sport has given me a lot to be able to be a part of something like this at home for all that time. It's been a really privilege. And it was the right time for me to push myself outside my comfort zone and try something new. And football is interesting too, because like I said before, but you can never predict the future. And as I said, when I left, I had to reach home. So again, it felt good to come back, but it was the right time for me to push myself. And, I'm really enjoying the challenge.
So Cavalry stays in second place with 20 points in 9 matches. They stay 2 points behind Forge because Forge played today, Sunday, and they defeated Inter Toronto 4-1. So Cavalry kept pace, but they're still a couple points behind Forge for the top.
Yeah, they temporarily reclaimed first place with this win. But yeah, with Forge winning today, they leapfrogged them back into first place. And looking at the table at the moment, there's starting to be that separation as a result of Forge's win over Inter Toronto between second and third. 8-point gap now between Cavalry and Inter Toronto, although Toronto has a game in hand. So they could cut that back down to 5.
And Supra and Ottawa are right behind Inter Toronto right now. So those 3 teams are really kind of bunched up there. But as I guess we're segue into this match on Wednesday, Cavalry against Inter Toronto, if they really want a chance to climb back into the potential race for first or even just to create some separation between themselves and those other 2 teams, they're really going to want to try and get a result on their home pitch.
Yeah, and, they played Cavalry really well when they were at Spruce Meadows earlier this season, forcing a draw. So I think, they're going to be itching for it, and they'll want to bounce back from this loss to Forge. So by no means will it be an easy one for Cavalry. I think they're really going to struggle for points. They're going to have to be at their best to get either a draw or a win. But I think a question mark that hangs in the air at the moment, Jason, is where's Ali Musi? Because he's missed the last couple of matches, and we haven't seen him.
Yeah, Musi's missed the last 2 matches, and we don't really know his status right now, but a bit different this week because I don't think Cavalry has had this quick a turnaround time for 2 matches in quite a while. Definitely not this season, but it's only, 3 or 4 days between matches.
Yeah, I mean, they did start circulating the bench in the second half, and a lot of players came off, right? Who we'll probably see start on Wednesday. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. And to be honest, Toronto has an even shorter turnaround, right? So for them, it's probably going to be more challenging than it is for Cavalry, even though they're the ones who have to get on the plane.
Yeah, that's true. I never really thought about that, but that's a good point. Yeah, that match is Wednesday at 5:30, and yeah, after that there's going to be a big break. I don't think there's a match again until I believe it's June 28th. So yeah, our last Cavalry fix for a while.
Yeah, get your Cavalry fix while you can.
This is Izzy Monck, and welcome to YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's talk about the Alberta Premier League. There were 3 sets of double headers on Friday, and we had a couple of them here in Calgary and one in Edmonton.
Yeah, we saw Blizzard on the women's side take on Calgary Wild U23s at Broadview, winning this one 3-1. Blizzard's goals came from Bryn Mortensen, who napped a brace, and Addison White. And the Wild's lone marker came from Reese Kincaid via an Olympico, apparently.
Yeah, she was posting it on her Instagram, so I think she's pretty happy with it. I don't blame her. It's exactly what you'd think. On the corner kick, it just goes right in.
And Jason, you've had a tendency of sending me screenshots of APL rosters this season, and I think you did that again for this game because there was a name on the roster for the Wild that caught your attention.
Yes. So we've speculated over the last couple months about where Izzy Monck could potentially end up. We know that she is graduating from Arizona State University, and I think that she's considered a pro prospect. I think she's made comments in the past about wanting to play pro, but we haven't really seen or heard anything concrete from her. But on the roster on Friday night for Wild 23 was Izzy Monck. She got the start. So, makes you think that maybe something's happening there.
I think it's a sure sign that she has signed for or is going to sign for the Wild first team. considering their lack of depth at center back in particular, I think she would be a very welcome addition to the team. And it would reunite her with not only her sister, who is also on the Wild, but a decent number of her former teammates from the University of Memphis, including Maya Jones and Grace Storty.
Yeah, there would be no shortage of familiar faces there for her. It makes a lot of sense at a lot of levels. The other thing I noticed in the lineup from the U23 squad is Anderson Williams got the start. So that likely means that she is nearing her return from injury as well.
Yeah, which I think will be welcome. And then also at Broadview, right after this game, in fact, the Blizzard men's team played against Cavalry 2, and our most recent podcast guest, Francesco Bartolillo, his team. Blizzard won this one 2-1 to maintain their perfect start to 2026, with Solomon Aria and Marco Plenzik scoring, while Cavalry 2's goal came from Lucas Correa.
And a couple of Cavalry senior squad members did dress for this match. James McGlinchey and Max Peepgrass both started. But yeah, that's that Blizzard team. They're tough. They're a real challenging club. But then again, there's another really, really solid Calgary club in the APL men's side right now too. And we should probably segue over to talk about them, Foothills.
Yeah, Foothills also, I think, maintaining a perfect start to 2026 with 5-1 win over St. Albert Impact at Macron Center and more goals from familiar faces, including Chanan Chanda and Fraser Aird.
And Robert Woodruff Brown and mystery player number 4.
It just says NA number 4. But I think, what is Fraser Aird up to? Has he got like 7 goals in 5 games?
Yes, Fraser Aird with 7 goals in first place and Chanan Chanda with 6 goals.
Yeah, not surprising at all from the two former Cavalry players. But yeah, I mean, have Foothills and Blizzard played each other yet? No, clearly not, because they both have perfect records. But when they do, that's going to be a great game, and I think one that Calgarians should really try to get out to.
Absolutely. When you look at the standings for the men right now, and really, it is definitely very much a 3-horse race. And, Foothills and Blizzard both have perfect records at 5-0, and BTB has 5 wins and a loss. But Scott, look at the goal differential, especially for Foothills. That's insane.
Yeah, plus 21 after 5 games. They have 24 goals, which is close to 5 goals per game on average. Now, that was padded with that 9-1 win that they had last week against Villains, but only 3 goals against. So not only does this team have firepower, but they are resolute at the back. But Blizzard's defensive record is even stronger with just 2 goals against, although they only have scored 12 in their 5 games.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at the schedule and see when those two play, but that should be a really, really good match.
And the only other game on the men's side was up in Edmonton. BTB was playing Callies, and they won this one 2-1. Callies' goal came from Anson Minty, our former podcast guest. I was Googling Fraser Aird's career. I don't know why, but I felt compelled to look up his stats. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize how many caps he had for Canada.
Oh, lots.
8 games, yeah. I think.
You got to remember that when he was younger, he was kind of a big deal. Like he was a player where, he talked about playing for Scotland, and it was kind of back and forth about whether he was going to play for them or not. And, and then he had a few really good years in Scotland.
But it's funny to think for all these kids in the APL who are going up against him, like, yeah, I'm taking on a guy who played for Canada 10 years ago and played 4 seasons for Rangers. Like Rangers.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think here's the one thing. If you're Fraser Aird, though, everything's going to plan right now. You're basically showing that you're too good for this league, and that if anybody needs help, he is capable. That he hasn't lost it. And we already talked about on the women's division the Wild Blizzard match, but we want to cover the other 2 doubleheaders on the women's side. And Foothills was playing St. Albert at Macron, and they did not have quite as dominating a victory as the men did, but they still were able to get the 1-0 win.
Yeah, with Julie Randall scoring the lone goal for Foothills. But another name caught your attention on the team sheet for this one, Jason. It looks like Kendall Showers is back in town.
She's back in town, and she's starting for Foothills. So I heard she was out of contract in Greece, and I don't know exactly what her status is regarding this fall, but I guess she's wants to get some matches in right now, and she's back at Foothills where she was last year.
And the last game to mention is BTB versus Callies up in Edmonton. BTB dominated this one, winning 6-0.
So when you look at the women's standings, they bear a lot of similarities to the men's standings, don't they, Scott?
Yeah, top two teams being Blizzard and Foothills, and actually just 1 point separating those two teams. Blizzard with 4 wins and a tie in their opening 5 games, whereas Foothills have 4 wins and a loss in their opening 5 games. So they're on 12 points, 1 point back.
In third place is Calgary Wild U23. They have 1 extra game played at 6 matches, but they're also at 12 points. So they've had a pretty solid start to this APL season. After that, it does drop off quite a bit. Even St. Albert is usually a powerhouse on the women's side, and they're kind of have just a very average record at 7 points this year.
Yeah, 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. And then below them is Rangers, Villains, and Callies.
And now that we're done all the APL reviews, there's a preview for this Tuesday, 1 doubleheader happening. Villains and Rangers are playing at West Island College.
Yeah, kind of a not a bottom of the table clash in both divisions, but definitely 2 teams on the out looking in.
Yeah, I don't know what has changed. I haven't really compared the rosters too much, but last year Rangers in their first year on the men's side had a reasonably strong year, but this year they've kind of fallen back a bit. And well, Villains has always fielded young teams, although they did win their first game finally.
Yeah, quite recently. Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links to buy my book, Here Come the Cavalry, which is all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. You can leave a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as X, Instagram, or Blue Sky. Our username is @YYCSoccer403. Thanks for listening.